friends, welcome to the show. The aim of primary education is to teach children the three R's. And those three R's are reading, writing, and arithmetic. It doesn't mean that the child only learns to read and write. The child should also comprehend what is written, what is spoken, and what the numbers mean. In this video, we are going to revisit the third R, which means we will try to understand how to read and comprehend numbers, which are flashed every day on the television screens. Let us begin by looking at this chart. This chart is based on data released by the government of Kerala. Kerala is a state which is boasting of a literacy rate of 100% for the past many decades. And this chart summarizes the average deaths every year since 2015. What is most striking is that during the pandemic year, the death rate actually was below the average. In fact, it was lower than all the years from 2015 onwards. That is really an enigma. So where did all this pandemic havoc happen? Or did it not happen in Kerala at all? I leave it to you. After all, you are well versed with the three R's that you learnt in school. Here's another graphic from the journal called Science. This is the official organ of the American Association for Advancement of Science. It's one of the oldest such body in the world. It is the equivalent of the Royal Society of England. This chart is based on the numbers provided by the renowned Johns Hopkins Resource Center. It compares the death rate of COVID in various countries. We have a high of 3.4% for South Africa, and for India it is as low as 1.1%. In fact, the latest figures for the month of May 2021, the number has just dropped below 1.1%. And now here we have a provocative headline from the Scientific American, another prestigious science journal. I call it provocative because it says flu has disappeared worldwide during the COVID pandemic. So the question that comes to our mind is, where did all the flu deaths go? And what do the flu death numbers look like? We shall explore that in the next few slides. Before we go to the charts which are referred to in the previous slide, here is what Mayo Clinic Research Center has to say. There is just no flu circulating. As a matter of fact, in the season just gone by, there were only 600 deaths compared to 22,000 in the previous season and 34,000 2 seasons ago. That's really quite surprising, isn't it? But then let's see what the charts actually show us. Here is the plot which shows the deaths in various years starting from 2010. And this data comes from the World Health Organization, and it covers North American parts of Bermuda, Canada, and the United States. As you can see, there is a bold flat line labeled as 2021 inside the red square. It's lying absolutely flat, while for all the other seasons it has been way above. Here is the plot for the temperate zones of South America, that means countries which include Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Once again, you will see the year 2021 is lying absolutely flat. So where did all these influenza cases vanish? Or did COVID-19 kill the disease called influenza? I leave it to you to surmise from this data. And finally, here is the World Health Organization data for the Oceania region, which includes Australia, New Zealand, and other island countries in that region. Once again, 2021, virtually flat, absolutely no influenza cases. Pneumonia is another major killer, especially in countries like India, China, and Pakistan. It's one of the leading causes of death, and India had a total of 43 million cases, 4 crore 30 lakhs. China, with a larger population, was less than half the number, 21 million cases. And Pakistan had just about 10 million cases or 1 crore cases. This is from World Health Organization data, and the reference for that can be found at the bottom of the screen. But the sad part is that pneumonia is particularly harsh on children. This is a news item datelined November 2019. That is much before this whole COVID episode began across the world. As you can see, pneumonia kills 14 children every hour. If you do a quick calculation, you will find that it kills more than 122,000 children every year, which means every hour 14 children are dying. And when I am saying children, I mean children below the age of 5. Isn't that sad? And we don't even talk about it in all our television broadcasts. The good news is that pneumonia numbers and the fatalities are decreasing. As a matter of fact, the measures that were undertaken by the government has caused a 41% reduction in the course of the past 5 or 6 years. These numbers are decreasing largely due to measures which go beyond wonder drugs and vaccines. What mattered were government programs such as the Integrated Child Development Service Program, the National Health Mission, Village Sanitation and Nutrition Committee, and finally providing cooking gas to households, which decreased the number of lung diseases emanating from the pollution created by unclean sources of energy for cooking in kitchens, especially in the poorer families. And here is the sad part. What the Lancet Child and Adolescent Health has to say, that the nationwide lockdown implemented in India from 24th of March 2020 to combat the COVID-19 has actually interrupted the provisions of these services, which I mentioned in the previous slide. Isn't that really sad that non-medical, non-wonder drug and non-vaccine based interventions are suffering because of funding being diverted to COVID-19? The economic repercussions will delay pneumonia vaccine, which is a secondary influence on progress. Let us now look at yet another silent killer that does not make any headlines, and that is diarrhea. Diarrhea is a terrible killer, especially of children. And here are the number of child deaths that we have in India every year because of diarrhea. More than 100,000. And if you convert that into a little calculation, you will find that there are 12 children dying every hour, every day, all year round because of diarrhea. Diarrhea deaths too are coming down, and the measures that are helping most are not wonder drugs. They are simple tricks like sanitation and hygiene. The chart on the right hand side shows how much improvement was obtained in a very short time. The numbers speak for themselves. The last killer that we shall see in this video is TB or tuberculosis. What you are seeing here is the source of the information. You will be shocked to know that 1/4 of the world population is having latent TB. What it means is that it is latent, or lying dormant, and the right conditions could trigger the TB to manifest itself. In 2017, 10 million people had TB, and as these figures show, 1.6 million people died. If you convert that to a percentage, it comes to a staggering fatality rate of 16%. And you can just compare that to the 1.1% COVID death rate of India. Don't you feel that we are not yet grounded in our 3 R's, which we should have been if we had proper education at the primary level? And here are the numbers for India. Even I was shocked when I was doing a study for this show. 40% of the population in India has latent TB. Compare this with the figure for the entire world, which is around 25%. An active TB person can infect 5 to 10 persons in 1 year. And besides, TB is facing a multi-drug resistance. In other words, it's getting more and more difficult to find drugs which will cure TB. The annual deaths in India are almost 500,000. Compare that to the total number of deaths due to COVID in India during the same period. The incidence is 26,40,000 persons. And if we do a little calculation, we will find that there are 50 deaths due to TB every hour, every day of the year, all year round. That is a staggering number. Here is another shocking fact. We are all told the damage caused by COVID-19 to the national economy. But that has been only so for the last year or so. Did you know that even though the treatment in India for TB is absolutely free, even so, 1 out of every 4 Indians who is a TB patient is forced to sell their assets or borrow money just to overcome financial difficulty. Does this plight of the poor make it on your TV screens in the news any time of the year? Never. We are just blind to that. You will have to discover the reasons why. I'm not going to tell you. So friends, that brings me to the end of this show. I'll now just summarize the salient points that we discussed. We talked about how we have not yet learnt the 3 R's which we are supposed to do at our primary level of education in school. We claim that we can read and write and also do arithmetic. But do we really care to find what these numbers actually mean? No, we are simply being programmed, or rather hypnotized, by the media which feeds us information into our ears and our eyes day in and day out. We saw how that is so when we compared the death rates, information from Kerala government, and world statistics from WHO and leading research institutions. We also saw that the pandemic has actually wiped out the flu. How and why it vanished will remain a mystery for a few years to come. And finally, we also saw the other big killers, pneumonia, diarrhea, and TB, which are not fashionable enough, which are not sensational enough to catch your attention, but which are wreaking havoc to your economy, to the health, and are affecting the children most. When I mean child, I mean children below the age of 5. So thank you very much for your attention, and we'll meet again in the next video. Until then, bye-bye.